to another episode of our Yu-Gi-Oh! Adventure. My name is Q Productions and I'll be your host. Today, we are using a new deck. We're using Karakuri. Karakuri is one of the first decks I ever made in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. And when I made this deck, my friends said it was broken, not because Karakuri actually is strong or anything, but because of one or two boss monsters this deck has that are not hard once per turns on their effects. So this deck uses Earth Machine monsters just like Infinity Track does, but the difference is we synchro summon. And this deck has pretty good negates if you use it correctly. Basically, unless you're locked into only being able to synchro summon Earth Machine monsters or special summon Earth Machine monsters in general for the entire turn, you have the ability to go into really powerful negates like Burn the Fleur and set up cards that can banish my opponent's monsters. And I can use Clear Wing Synchro Dragon, I think the name of the card is. And we can negate our opponent's monster effects as well. So this deck is really good at doing that. Like I said before, as long as you're not locked into Earth Machine monsters, but I explain what that means as we continue dueling. The only real weakness of this deck is literally this deck heavily gets destroyed by hand traps. If they have a good hand trap at the good time, it will make you just automatically basically want to surrender, because a lot of times in this deck your normal summon is your life or death. If you get your normal summon negated, the effect that happens, you most of the time won't be able to come back from it. Luckily I do have ways to beat this. Like I have infinite impermanence. I have Call by the Grave, so if somebody Ash Blossom me, I can just negate that and continue my play. But that is the main weakness of this deck, besides the fact that you can get locked into only being able to summon Earth Machine monsters. But let's continue the duels, and I'll explain my thought process and why I love this deck so much. Okay, let's start off with duel number 1. So in this duel, we have a really good hand actually. First we have before, so we can add, of course, Angry Drill. The same thing we did in our last video where we used Infinity Track monsters. We're going to use Angry Drill so we can special summon a Karakuri monster. The green one, the green Karakuri monster lets you normal summon an additional Karakuri monster per turn. And because of the tuner, we are allowed to synchro summon to our first synchro monster, level 7, which on a not hard once per turn lets us special summon any Karakuri monster from the deck. Then we're going to special summon level 5 Karakuri monster from our hand. Well, that one is the one that locks you into only being able to special summon Earth Machine monsters for the entirety of the turn, which is the reason why I said we're not going to have any negates for the chance. So now we use, of course, our Synchro 8, special summon our level 1 Karakuri monster, so we can then Synchro 9, because we love doing that. And the Synchro 8 ability is when you change battle position of a Karakuri monster, it gets to draw a card. And now we have the Synchro 9, which if you change the battle position of a Karakuri monster, you can banish one card your opponent controls. And any monsters in the defense position cannot be destroyed by battle. And then my opponent surrenders because he realizes, wait, he's setting up a really strong board and I can't beat that. And that's the first duel. Simple, fast, and honestly, if he didn't surrender, we probably still would have won anyway. Duel number 2, we do the exact same thing we did literally in the first duel, where we're going to normal summon Anchor Drill, so we can special summon the green Karakuri monster, and then Synchro 7. Simple, effective strategy. But this time we aren't locked into only being able to special summon Earth Machine monsters because we didn't use level 5 Karakuri monster. So we're going to special summon level 1, and then we're going to Synchro 8 again. And I love synchroing this card because basically you can banish the level 1 green Karakuri monster in the graveyard, which lets you then change the battle position of any Karakuri monster on the field. And it's a quick effect. And because we change the battle position to draw a card, and then we get to also special summon a card from the deck. And now we can Synchro 9 into the biggest boss monster of the deck, which lets us, of course, special summon any Karakuri monster from our deck, summon the green one, level 3 green one, so we can normal summon. And then this normal summon Karakuri monster lets us add any Karakuri card from our decks to our hand. So now we can get Hyper Librarian because we're not locked into only special summoning Earth Machine monsters. And basically, Karakuri Oil, that spell card, lets us special summon any Karakuri monster from the graveyard. And then we're going to use that plus Hyper Librarian to get Synchro Dragon. Now we have a monster negate called by the grave, because I don't feel like making my opponent be able to play the game. And we can banish any card our opponent controls whenever we feel like it. So this is what I was talking about when I say this deck is really good sometimes at just stopping your opponent from playing the game. Because even though you aren't going to negate this fusion summon, we can literally just banish the card. So now we negate Crystal Wing to Dragon, can negate the card in the graveyard. We're going to banish our level 1 Karakuri monster so we can change the battle position of our Synchro 9. And now that his battle position has changed, we have the ability to banish any card our opponent controls. And then our opponent's like, oh, I can't win. And he surrenders. And that's a good example of this deck is just going first. You just put this really hard to beat board. Even though it was only one negate, it was 2 negates, but it's just the fact you can banish a card for free is so good. Okay, do number 3. In this hand, we have the literal exact same hand we had in the first game. The difference is we're going second. So because of that reason, our opponent's like Uni-Zombie, and I'm over here like, no, I know what that does. So I use Infinite Impermanence to stop the entire flow of the game, because this is a balanced card. My opponent thinks he can use his effect again as a discard cost, but it's not a cost. So because of that reason, it's not going to work, and he gets negated. But because we're going second, we can use Heavy Forward to, the usual, get Anchor Drill. I could have used Urgent Schedule immediately, but the reason why I used Heavy Forward was because of the fact that I knew that if he had Ash Blossom, he might Ash Blossom me, and then my Urgent Schedule wouldn't go off. So now we're going to go to Hyper Librarian. And the reason why we do this is because now we have Hyper Librarian, we can special summon our Karakuri level 5, and now we have the ability to go into our Synchro 9. But this time we're not locked into Earth Machine monsters immediately, so we have the ability to get Hyper Librarian and draw cards every single time we Synchro Summon. And this is a good point. So we're gonna Synchro Summon into our, we're gonna special summon our Karakuri level green one, so we can normal summon level 5, and get a spell that lets us special summon any Karakuri monster from our graveyard back onto the field. And we're gonna of course get level 8 so we can draw more cards. And draw more cards. And this deck is really good at drawing cards if you can get this combo to work. And our opponent basically can't do anything. We're going to draw a bunch of cards, where it's going to be either an Ash Blossom on our hand to negate our opponent's effect, another Infinite Impermanence, a Call by the Grave, it could be a Nibiru. Either way, we're going to get a bunch of hand traps to make our opponent stop playing the game, banish his card, and then he's going to surrender. Because he realizes, again, I can't beat this, and it's game over, and he would have got OTK'd, or not OTK'd, but he would have definitely died that turn. Okay, do number 4. First, we're going to put our Karakuri Anatomy on the field, which is a continuous spell that has the effect where every time you change the battle position of a Karakuri monster, it gains 1 counter, a max of 2, and then you can send the card from the field to the graveyard to draw the amount of cards based on how many counters on it. So we're going to draw 1 card, and we're going to use Infinite Trencher to send that copy of our Karakuri monster to the graveyard, so we can then Synchro 8 to our amazing Karakuri monster, which will then special summon another Karakuri monster in the graveyard from the deck, so we can then Synchro 9 into the Karakuri monster that can banish cards, allowing us to special summon a Karakuri monster from the deck. And the reason why we summoned that one is because now we have Baron Defleur. We didn't use any card to be able to lock ourselves only into summoning 1 card, so now we have Baron Defleur. So then I special summon the Karakuri level 8 one from the graveyard instead of the level I misplayed here. The reason why I did this is because you make sure y'all read your cards when you're playing. I, for some reason why I thought that I could special summon it, and when it's summoned, I can special summon a monster from the deck. But no, it says when it's synchro summon. So it's not a hard once per turn, but it is a synchro summon requirement. So because of that reason, I thought, okay, I'll use it. So my opponent used Forbidden Droplet, and again, another misplay from me, I'm pretty sure. He sent a trap to the graveyard. Now, occasionally what Forbidden Droplet does, you can send cards to the graveyard, that way your opponent can activate those cards that they're sent. Those type of cards that are sent in response to the activation of Forbidden Droplet. I'm almost certain that he did that, that way I would purposely negate it, but it doesn't really matter because he would have negated my card anyway, so it got negated. But now he decided he's going to summon Guardian Slime, and I realized that he's playing a Divine Beast deck. He's using Raw, and I'd never fought against the deck before, so I wasn't prepared mentally to handle this. But luckily my opponent, all he does is basically keep getting Monster Reborn so he can special summon more cards from his graveyard. He does have a really strong 3000 attack and defense monster that I know I can't beat unless I can banish it. But I don't have really any way to get to banish it right now. But luckily for me, I do have I had another equip spell in my hand, so I have the ability to special summon the level 9 if I really want to. But first, we're going to use our Infinite Anchor Drill. The main reason why I did this was because I wanted to just see if my opponent had Ash Blossom or not. Luckily, he didn't. So now, we're going to change the battle position of our monster, which will then activate both Karakuri, Gamma Oil, the equip spell, and we can activate our level 9 single monster's effect to banish his 3000 attack monster, because I feel like it. So even though I misplayed heavily at the first and second turn, I was still able to come back because of the fact that this deck can banish people's monsters and not have to worry about it or anything. So now we're going to summon Infinite Track of Slicer, level 9. Now that we have done this, we have the ability to destroy 3 of my opponent's cards. And that's what we do. And then he decides to add a card from his deck to his hand, but I don't care about that because of the fact that we're going to kill him this turn, and he surrenders. So this is an example of a duel that could have really went badly, but because of the fact that I decided to actually read my cards, and I come back and win. So make sure y'all read your cards when you ever play Yu-Gi-Oh! It's really important. Number 5, we're going to use Heavy 4 like always, and we're going to try and scout out our opponent's Ash Blossom, but instead they had Maxi, and I'm over here like, but luckily we have Call by the Grave, so we're like, on my watch, because we really hate getting negated or making our opponent draw 7 billion cards. We point at that graveyard and banish that stupid bug, and then we add, of course, like usual, a different Infinite Track monster, Brutal Dozer. And the reason why I added this one is because we're not going to be able to actually summon our Hyper Librarian. We're going to just normal summon Karakuri monster, get level 5, and Synchro 7. With this combo, we now have the ability to Synchro 7 into our Karakuri monster and special summon a level 1. And do the same combo we always do, where we basically continue climbing into the Synchros, one level at a time. Now we have 8. We're going to banish our card from the graveyard, of course, so we can change the battle position of our Karakuri monster, so that way we can draw 1 card. Hopefully get a good hand trap, and we get Urgent Schedule. And I was like, wow, I only have 1 copy of Urgent Schedule in this deck, if you saw the deck list, so the fact that I got it, it kind of made me a little upset because I don't think I'm going to really need to use it. But now we're going to normal summon an extra time, and then we're going to Bulldozer. And the reason why I got Bulldozer is just for this reason. Now, we can get 2 level 5s on the field and put Infinite Track Trencher into the graveyard and Synchro Summon again into our number 8. And now that we have this, we can special summon another time, change the battle position, draw another card, and put Urgent Schedule on the field, just in case we need to use it next turn. So my opponent is playing a Machina deck, and I'm over here like, oh, because I know what Machina can do. Then I see Therian, and I'm like, I don't know what this card does. So like I learned the last duel, I'm going to read every single card I see. So I see Machina, Orcust, and Therion. I'm like, I don't know what I'm dealing with. But he summons an Orcust Link monster. So I was like, okay, we're gonna change the battle position of my Karakuri monster. Draw a card, of course. And then I banished his Therion because I read the ability and it was something about negating a monster effect. So I was just like, let me get rid of that. So I banished it, but he just used the effect and my effects negated. Oh well. Doesn't really matter, but his card is gone. So I'm thinking I'm good, but I didn't realize that, of course, this has a graveyard effect, so now he can spell summon a card from his deck and do more shenanigans. And because I don't know what's actually happening, I'm a little scared, but also I'm not scared because I have monsters in defense position that can't be destroyed because of the level 9 Synchro Monster effect. So I wasn't really scared, but then it hit me, and I remembered something, is that in the extra deck, there is a really good XC Orcust monster that can be summoned using a Link monster. So he summons Orcust, and I'm like, up, and my card gets destroyed. Walks into the graveyard, and then he starts battling. He attacked the attack vision monster, which is something I didn't mention when I was talking about the weaknesses of this deck. The only real problem, it's not really a problem that much, it happens sometimes, but it's not really that big of a deal, is a lot of your Karakuri monsters have the effect of, if they're attack or in a position, they will be changed during the battle. Also, if they are in attack position or they have the ability to attack, they're forced to attack. Now, luckily, we did have Urgent Schedule on the field, so we're able to special summon 2 cards during our opponent's end turn. That way we don't get locked into summoning. So we resummon, of course, our level 9 because, you know, banishing cards is fair and balanced. And we're going to, of course, Synchro 8, but first our opponent somehow is able to Link summon on my turn because, okay. And I change the battle position so I can banish his card because that's fair and balanced. And then my opponent's like, you thought. And then he surrenders. But no, not surrender, he actually got a connection failure. But I feel like I still would have won anyway because I had a board coming and there was no way he's going to be able to use that one card. Not to mention my level 9 is not once per turn, so I could have definitely won. So I'm going to count it as a win in my books. Okay, duel number 6. This is a really quick duel. I just wanted to show you a really interesting thing. The reason why I talk about how this deck is really good at drawing cards. Normally we draw into our hand traps, but luckily we had Ash Blossom in our hand. So my opponent used a really good spell where he tributes 2 monsters and spell summon 2 Iceberry monsters from the deck. And I'm like, Ash Blossom. And he's like, oh. And he's surrendered. That's just a quick duel, but that's an example of if we draw a lot of cards with this deck, which we do, as you saw in the past duels, you can just get extremely good hand traps and your opponent cannot do much about it. Okay, it's time for the final duel of the video. We are fighting against Cyber Dragon. And of course, we're going second. So we have Dark Lunar more in our hand. So of course, if our opponent has some really annoying negate, we can just say no. So my opponent uses machine duplication that they always do. So they can spell summon 2 Cyber Dragons from their deck, which are level 5. And then he's going to XC summon. And then he's going to XC summon again, in order to get the actual really annoying Cyber Dragon that gets a free Omni negate. So because of that reason, I was like, well, I'm going to use Dark Lunar more, but I was afraid of something to counter spells, but luckily we got Harpy Spell Duster. But I used Dark Lunar more first, then I used Harpy Spell Duster. I'm like, bye. And he had Call by the Grave. So we do our normal combo, we normal summon our Merchant, and then we're going to special summon our level 5 Karakuri monster. Now the reason why I didn't normal summon Anchor Drill was because if you normal summon Anchor Drill, you just have to special summon a Karakuri monster. And there was no point in me special summoning the level 1 because then we would just go into Synchro 5, which is not going to be helpful. That's just Hyper Librarian. And there's no point in me special summoning the level 2 because that's not a tuner and the effect only works if he's normal summoned. So I had to use level 2. So we're gonna draw a card and we're gonna Synchro summon, add a card to our hand, and draw a card. As a result, we get Nibiru, luckily me. And we're gonna Synchro into a Synchro 9, and now we can change the battle position of our monsters, normal summon a second time, and banish this card. So we don't have to worry about anything. Now the reason why I kept everything in a defense position, attack position this time, normally I keep my cards in defense position because they can be destroyed by battle as long as the synchronize on the field. But I know if my opponent attacks me, my cards will change position, and if they change position, then I will banish a card. Also, I completely forgot that Doctor No More makes you can't take damage, but this is an example of these Karakuri monsters literally have to attack, well at least not the synchro one, the level 3 ones do, they have to attack. But now my opponent is going to do really more annoying Cyber Dragon shenanigans, and I'm like, I'm not trying to deal with this. So I decided to banish his card, thinking by banishing he won't be able to XP summon, and I'm right, but then he used Machine Duplication again, and then he used the Cyber Rev system, and I'm like, here we go. And he distributes my monsters, but luckily we draw Nibiru, which as I said, this deck is really good at drawing hand traps. So we draw Nibiru, get rid of all his cards, and basically have a clean slate, and have the ability to do everything we want. Then we get Ash Blossom, that's not really helpful, but it doesn't matter because now we can normal summon our Anchor Drill Spell Summon on level 1, and we're going to Synchro and 2 Baron Deployer, because you can turn the level 4 and add it to level 1, and that makes it 5, so they both become 5, and now we have Baron Deployer on the field and Ash Blossom, and because Baron Deployer's effect, we can destroy the token, and there is literally no way our opponent can win now, and they surrender. And that's the end of the video. Of course, I'm going to put the deck list at the end of the video as well as the beginning, so you can check if you like the deck. Of course, you can change some of the cards if you want to, but this is what I used in mine and what I continue using. Of course, I use 2 Cloud by the Graves because I don't want my opponent to negate my effects, because it's really annoying to get negated. I do have Borlor Savage Dragon. I think that's what I have, the single monster's name. I never really actually get to summon him, but when I do, that's a really good Omni negate that is extremely easy to get. The only reason why I don't summon him very often is even though he's not really hard to summon, his effect is mainly good when you have link monsters in your graveyard, but this deck rarely link summons, so that's the reason why I don't summon it very much. But if you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share the video with anyone you know on any social media platform, and please leave comments. I love reading y'all's comments and responding. I respond to literally every single comment, because the second I get notified of the comment, I will respond. This is how I am. And I'm also sorry about the late upload. I was trying to upload this video way earlier in the week, at least at the time of recording this, but you know how life is. Life happens, and I end up recording the video, editing it, but never actually get it finished. So that is the reason why it took so long, but I am sorry about that. But I'm going to continue uploading more and more and more, because I love making these videos, and I'll make different content as well. But I hope you like watching. Have a nice day.